When Donald Trump says we have to curtail Muslim immigration until we sort out where the terrorists are, what do Iranians know about the Islamic Revolution?
Well, myself, I'm Jewish. I got kicked out of Iran. And
how does Muslim culture regard homosexuality?
oh, doesn't exist. That's what they think. They think it's, there's no such thing.
What happens to Muslims who get caught being gay?
Killed.
Islamism, political Islam is strong, like Pakistan, Iran, Saudi Arabia. What do they do when they find out someone is homosexual?
Well, when they found out that someone is homosexual, from my understanding, they torture them and they throw them over the roofs of homes and to their death. It's execution.
What do they do?
It's absolutely disgusting. It depends on the country, but in Iran, most of the time they will kill you. They will try to make you confess to your crimes. It's a really weird thing it's not the entire Islamic community, and I don't want to say that it is that entire Islamic faith that does it. You see this in Afghanistan with a practice called bachabazi, which was outlawed, but it still is in practice. It's only a little fine.
So they will throw them over the roofs of the homes.
Yeah.
Throw them off the roof?
ISIS will throw them over the roof of the homes of high 2, 3, 4, 5-story buildings.
Gay men, gay women?
From what I've seen, it's been gay men.
If that's the case, shouldn't the LGBT community be more pro-Republican, who are willing to take on the jihad rather than the Democrats who have been taking money from them?
But people just think about short term and what's right in front of them. And it's unfortunate because, in order to be more well educated about politics, you can't just be here and now. You need to learn about, not just, grassroots politics, but also foreign policy, which does influence LGBT policy.
What will Trump do?
Well, what Donald Trump does, he advocates for, having a sort of system for undocumented immigrants who want to come to the U.S. have more of a thorough background check. For instance, when it came to the San Bernardino husband and his former fiance, now former wife, it was a fiance visa, and he wants to have a sort of background and check policy that will check the background of these individuals more thoroughly, not just let them in. You have to check. For instance, if Facebook found that this individual, this wife, had ties to ISIS. So what Trump wants, he wants to have more of a background check to make sure that these individuals are not terrorists.
Right. What does Trump want to do specifically with Muslim immigrants?
Well, Muslim immigrants, you still want to get vetted. It doesn't matter if you're Muslim, if you're a Christian or Jewish. You still want to get vetted. I as an immigrant myself, I went through a long process. I had my background investigated. I had my whole history, especially coming from a communist country. For me, it was very in depth. I personally don't see a problem with that. Especially if you're coming from a war-torn country like Syria or Afghanistan or Iraq, where documentation and passports are very easy to fake because these areas fall into control that are under Islamic fascists, you really want to get that checked out. And it's not about just, the whole world. It's about our security here.
And that's the problem. People are, we have to be PC, we have to be care and accepting. You know what? If you go to those countries, those people aren't care and accepting. They don't care about the Americans. They want to kill Americans. They want to kill infidels who don't believe what they want to believe, what, they believe in the Quran. And that's the scary part. These people, they don't care about us. They don't care about our well-being. If they see us suffering, deaths, terrorist attacks, that's what they want to see. And that's the mistake with our our LGBT community. We have to be realistic. We can't be all idealistic.
How much awareness is there within the LGBT community about these particular issues? What the Democrats vis-a-vis jihad and the Republicans vis-a-vis jihad mean to them domestically?
If you ask a member of the LGBT community, they will not be able to articulate their true concerns. They'll be like, oh, we should be accepting of everyone. You know what? At the end of the day, we need to be respectful, but we need to take care of ourselves first. We're America. We need to take care of America first. We can't be naive. Being a sexual minority is the biggest sin. So if you're a sexual minority, they will take your life, and they will do it in the most graphic way possible, and they don't care.
Do you think fundamentalist Muslims would commit crimes against homosexual people in America?
Absolutely. I mean, to touch back on what was touched on earlier with them throwing off, from how I understand it, the Daesh or ISIL or IS or however they want to call themselves now, they typically throw you off a third floor building. And if you survive, what happens is after they stone you until you're dead, they have no sympathy for you. They have no mercy for you. They don't care. These are guys that are putting out propaganda videos of them beheading people, of putting detonation cord around someone's neck, or putting you in a vehicle and throwing an RPG at your vehicle. These guys have no sympathy for you. And people will never acknowledge that. The thing is, this stuff will not be shown on the news. It'll be.
Wouldn't you think that gays of all people ought to be supporting the restriction of Muslim immigration into the West?
Absolutely.
I support Mr. Trump because he is not part of the Washington, D.C. Establishment. He's not part of the problem. He hasn't been part of D.C. for decades like Hillary Clinton has. Hillary Clinton has been part of D.C. longer than I've been alive, over 20 years. And you know what? Donald Trump isn't bought by wealthy donors, and that's something the American people need, because we need someone that will not be beholden to the lobbyist in Washington, D.C. And, you know, he's a businessman. He's a successful businessman, and that's something everybody wants to emulate. Various groups here supporting Trump. It's not necessarily just the white men that the media likes to portray as. It's women, there are black Americans, there's a variety of people here, and I'm glad to see that.
Donald Trump is the most pro-gay Republican nominee ever. Elections are always about choices, and the choice in this election is either Hillary Clinton is going to be the next president of the United States or Donald Trump is. And for me, despite my differences with Trump in the past, it was a slam dunk. I want Donald Trump to be president. For me, terrorism and our safety in this world is an LGBT issue. For me, jobs is an LGBT issue, because all of those issues impact the LGBT community. I have no doubt that Donald Trump presidency would be better for LGBT Americans.
But what about Donald Trump reassuring people like Jerry Falwell Jr. and other evangelical Christians and pastors that he will be on their side on issues like marriage?
Donald Trump can say that he disagrees on the issue of marriage, but it's a settled issue. We're not going to have a constitutional amendment. We're not going to have the Supreme Court that's going to reverse it. The left wants gay people to believe that because that's what they want to scare you into going and voting for Hillary Clinton. That's not the case. The fact is, marriage equality is settled.
I'd like to read a few things you said about Donald Trump in the past year. Trump is all talk and no action. What a fraud. The giant police state Trump supports would make Hitler blush. We are keeping lists of you Trump people. You will never live this shame down. Want someone to tell it like it is? Okay, here it goes. If you support Donald Trump, you are an idiot.
This was an incredibly divisive and, excitable primary. But at the end of the day, Republicans should understand what's at stake here. And what's at stake is the White House. And it's time for us to put beside our differences and rally behind our nominee. Because at the end of the day, LGBT Americans will be better off with Donald Trump as president. Americans in general will be better off with Donald Trump as president. Does that mean that I loved Donald Trump during the primaries and that he was my preferred candidate? Absolutely not. Did I root hard for my guy? Did I want my guy to win? Absolutely. Does that mean that I'm gonna take my ball and go home now and support Hillary Clinton? No, absolutely not.
It's time to unite. Black, white, fat, skinny, liberal, conservative, poor, rich. I can go on, but the message is clear. We have to defeat crooked Hillary at all costs. This woman thinks she's above the law, and today's FBI ruling showed that. And it's time to put her where she belongs, and that's in retirement. We have to unite behind Donald Trump, rally behind him, and make sure he is the next president of the United States of America.
This is the Clinton Foundation. The Clinton Foundation, the media refuses to touch, accepted more than $25 million from countries, that kill or imprison gays, relating this back to the terror attacks over the weekend. Saudi Arabia, 100 lashes and banishment to death by stoning and they reportedly donated between 10 million and 25 million to the Clinton Foundation. Kuwait, 7 years in prison for being gay. 5 million to 10 million. Morocco, a fine and 6 months to 3 years in prison. 6 million. Right on down the list with Qatar, Oman, United Arab Emirates, Algeria, Bahrain. How does she get away with this? How is this going to go unnoticed?
Trump, who is a hardliner against ISIS and any ISIS sympathizers, Trump, who wants to defend America against, pardon the phrase, radical Muslim jihadists, Trump is the friend of the gay community. Hillary is not. He claims to, but foreign policy tells you another story.
Yep, absolutely.
Oh, no, this is being in America. I've been in Los Angeles for 2 weeks. They have very good tanning salons. See, it's called Portofino. It's on, I don't know, Santa Monica. We love you, Milo! We love you! I love this. Look this up. Look this up. Look at that flag. Don't tread on me. It should say fire back. All right. Thank you so much for coming out. I'm glad we managed to do this in the end. My name is Milo Yiannopoulos. I'm here to give you a warning. I'm here to give you a warning from Europe. I'm from London, and I know what happens when governments and the media collude to pander to and to mollycoddle Islam. I know what happens to gay people. I know what happens to trans people. I know what happens to women. I know what happens to all the minorities that the left claims that it is here to defend. I'll give you a few statistics from the UK. My team's put together some numbers that I want to share with you because I want you to understand where America could be going. Gallup poll of Muslims in the UK found that not a single one of 1,001 Muslims who were polled, not a single one thought that homosexuality was acceptable. That's right. 100% of British Muslims believed that homosexuality was unacceptable. This is not radical Islam, the phrase that your president has finally been forced to say. Yep. This is not terrorism. This is not any of the things that you see on your television connected with ISIS. This is not the crazy people blowing themselves up, or even the guys throwing gay people like me off the roof in Raqqa, in Iran, on cranes, whatever. This is Muslims in the West. 100% of British Muslims believe that homosexuality is unacceptable. Another poll recently showed that this is not radical Islam. This is Islam. Woo! Yes. And I want you to take away with you something that we are learning painfully in Europe now, and that is the politicians do not have your back. Yeah. The media does not have your back. People are not going to protect gays or women or blacks or Latinos or any other minority. You've got to do it for yourself. And when I said this should say fire back, as they say on the internet, armed gays don't get bashed. And when your celebrities that you listen to and the media that you listen to, when your politicians are saying the answer to this is fewer guns, that horrifies me. Gun-free zones are the most dangerous places in America because gun-free zones provide safe spaces for killers. The left likes to talk about safe spaces. Well, safe spaces for murderers are gun-free zones. And most of the most deadly and most of the big headline-grabbing tragedies and attacks in America recently have happened where? In gun-free zones. Yep. Because killers and crazies don't look at a sign on the wall that says no guns here and say, oh, okay then, all right, I'll go home. They walk in there safe in the knowledge that nobody is going to fight back. Safe in the knowledge that nobody in there is equipped to defend themselves. And there are two problems in America as I see it, and I'm coming to you from a continent in which we have Germany, 1.4 million Syrian migrants, Syrian Muslims in Germany now. You've got hospitals who are saying that their accident emergency rooms, their emergency rooms are overrun by people who spit at female doctors and say they won't be treated by them. By public buildings that are being defaced, by people who are being raped and sexually assaulted in their thousands in public spaces at night. And the response of the authorities is, well, what were you doing out so late? If that's not victim blaming, I don't know what is. The progressive left, the social justice warrior left in America, is the single biggest enemy to gay people, to gay security, and to the well-being of homosexuals and every other minority they claim to represent that exists in America today. 52%, 100% of the Muslims in the Gallup poll believed that homosexuality was unacceptable. In a second poll, 52% believe that it should be made illegal. It's pouring into Europe and the UK. We see it happening where I come from, and I don't want that to happen to America. America is the greatest country in the world. There is a reason I'm here, because I love this country, and I love the principles on which this country was founded. Freedom of speech, freedom of thought, freedom of movement, democracy, capitalism, property rights. All of these things have given minorities rights unprecedented anywhere else in the world. It is Western liberal democratic capitalism that has given women the vote, given them access to education, the workplace, equal pay, because they do have equal pay. There is no rape crisis on campuses. To believe that, you'd have to think that America resembles the Congo. In fact, the Washington Post reported today that out of the 2,600 colleges they surveyed in 2014 for official government data, over half of them recorded 0 rapes in 2014. But the progressive left, of course, will tell you that American campuses are the most dangerous place for women to be. The American left, the progressive left, the social justice left hates women, gays, and minorities. It is a band of spoiled brat white liberals who care for nothing except their own self-esteem. And importing Muslims into this country is going to represent significant risk to minorities. Politicians don't want you to hear that. You hear that from people. It sounds like, oh, crazy right-wing rhetoric. This is the reality that Europe is living through. Please don't make our mistakes. America is better than that, and you have an opportunity now to save yourselves before this happens. A slightly longer version of what I just said to you was supposed to be delivered at the University of Central Florida this week, but the police cancelled. The police cancelled my talk because they said they couldn't guarantee my safety. Well, I thought that was reasonable until my team drove past a number of mosques in the center of Orlando yesterday to discover them crawling with police officers, because woe betide anybody should be rude about Muslims. That would be a hate crime. But what they couldn't do is spare 6 or 8 officers to let a gay man say what the media won't tell you, say what politicians won't say, which is that this is not radical Islam, it is not terrorists. Forcing Obama to say radical Islam is only 25% of the war. The rest of the battle is being honest about the challenges that you face in this country. It's not unique in America's history to have a European come and tell you how it is and save you from yourselves. Alexander de Tocqueville did it before me. And before I was saying America could be great again with Donald Trump, it took a Frenchman. And he came in to document the miracle of American democracy in 1835 in his book, Democracy in America. I want you to treat what the Europeans who have previously come to America and explained in economic and political terms, I want you to listen to me on social issues. I want you to listen to me on this minority war that the left has forced us into. There are swimming pools in Germany that have to be segregated. This is what we mean when we talk about the regressive left. The regressive left, whose apologies and pandering for this ugly ideology, this barbaric and medieval culture, have left Germany sexually segregated. Swimming pools now. There's a man time and a woman time, because the immigrants that they have, the migrants I should say, can't be trusted not to rape women. America has a problem here, and America needs to face up to this problem. The left is not going to be honest about what's happening. And I'm going to wrap up by just saying, after the Second World War, when Jews saw what had happened to them in the Holocaust, and they saw the number of other Jews who had said nothing, who had done nothing, when that particular minority was targeted by a different ugly ideology. After the Second World War, they said never again. The creation of the State of Israel, whatever your political views, however you feel about Palestine versus Israel, the pugnaciousness, the determination and the effectiveness of the IDF, of the Israeli military forces, the fact that it is one of the most effective and brilliant armies in the world, one of the most efficient fighting forces in the world, is the result of what happened in the Second World War. My hope after today, after the ugly and disgusting thing that happened here, is that gay people say too, like the Jews did after the Second World War, never again. And gay people too. Let Islamic fundamentalist preachers and Muslims everywhere who are tempted into thinking that they can treat gay people like this, they can treat women like this, they can treat Latinos like this, they can treat blacks like this, they can treat anyone like this, that we will shoot back. And to those liberals who say the answer is gun-free zones, those liberals who say, oh, can't we all just love each other? Your entreaties to peace, love and understanding on Twitter are not changing the views of people in mosques around this city, are not changing the views of people in mosques anywhere else in this country. They are not changing the views of ISIS. They are not changing the views of the immigrants who come into Europe. They are changing nothing. They're not helping you. They're not serving you. They're doing nothing for you. They are instead lulling you into a false sense of security that you are safe. You are not safe. The best thing you can do in America, because you are in the best country in the world, as I said, and you have two things on your side that Europe doesn't. You have the First Amendment, which means, or at least should mean, that people like me who don't even belong here in a way, you know, I'm not a citizen here, can come here and say whatever they feel. Most of this talk would have got me arrested in Europe. Can come here and say whatever they want, and you guys can say whatever you want. And that First Amendment is underpinned by the Second. It is your right to bear arms. It is your right to protect yourself. If 2, 3, 4 people had been armed in that nightclub, it would have ended very differently. Gay people need an end to gun-free zones. Gay people need an end to the pointless pacifism of the left, because we have a threat on our shores, in our communities, in our societies, in streets not far from here that requires a response from the minorities the left has given up on. It refuses to protect us. Instead, it pits us against each other. It creates a victimhood hierarchy with Muslims at the top. Well, the problem with putting Muslims at the top is they want to kill everyone else on the list. You have the First and the Second Amendment here, so your gay communities, your women, your blacks, your Latinos, and everybody else who feels let down by the progressive left, who is looking out on the left and thinking, what did you do to us? How did you give up on us like this? And some of them are looking at the presumptive Republican candidate, others have just given up on politics altogether. What none of them should give up on is your rights as Americans to say what you want, do what you want, speak to who you want, dress how you like, express yourself however you want, go to whatever gay club you want on whatever depraved, debauched, drug-fueled benders you choose to, because that is your right as Americans. And if somebody comes at you with an assault weapon, you should have a gun in your pocket to protect yourself.
I will fight for comprehensive immigration reform and a path to citizenship for you and for your families across our country. I will fight to stop partisan attacks on the executive actions that would put dreamers, including those with us today, at risk of deportation. And if Congress continues to refuse to act, as president, I would do everything possible under the law to go even further.
Making sure that Muslim Americans don't feel left out or marginalized at the very moment when we need their help.
When we hear a candidate for president banning all Muslims from entering the United States, that doesn't make him strong, it makes him wrong.
Think about it.
I would bomb the out of him.
One of these Republicans
carpet bomb them into oblivion.
Could actually be president, acting their agenda backward, even dangerous. So ask yourself, who's the one candidate who can stop them? Hillary Clinton, tested and tough. To stop them, stand with her.
I'm Hillary Clinton, and I approve this message.
You're against same-sex marriage, now you're for it. You defended President Obama's immigration policies, now you say they're too harsh. You supported his trade deal dozens of times. You even called it the gold standard. Now, suddenly last week, you're against it. Will you say anything to get elected?
I believe that marriage is not just a bond, but a sacred bond between a man and a woman. I have had occasion in my life to defend marriage, to stand up for marriage, to believe in the hard work and challenge of marriage. So I take umbrage at anyone who might suggest that those of us who worry about amending the Constitution are less committed to the sanctity of marriage or to the fundamental bedrock principle that it exists between a man and a woman going back into the mists of history as one of the foundational institutions of history and humanity and civilization.
The issue of gay marriage is a very, very big issue with college kids. Today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read these students a quote, and I want to get their reaction to the quote and see who they think actually said it. I'm going to give you a quote about marriage, and I want you to tell me who you think said it. Marriage has got historic, religious, and moral content that goes back to the beginning of time. And I think a marriage is as a marriage has always been, between a man and a woman. Who said that?
A man and a woman. Well, I'd have to say probably someone conservative, but I have no idea.
Who would you guess said that?
I don't know, Rick Perry. Someone who's extremely religious, I guess.
Okay.
Maybe someone who's really Catholic.
Any Republican?
Any Republican.
Probably a conservative, I would assume.
Rick Santorum. Rick Santorum, very socially conservative guy.
Oh, God. George Bush?
A Republican?
Dick Cheney.
Dick Cheney.
Was it Mitt Romney?
No, Mitt Romney, so that would be somebody you could imagine saying something like that. Would you be okay with having somebody who had that view coming to speak on campus, say?
Probably not.
You wouldn't like that?
No.
Do you think you'd be okay if somebody with those views came and spoke on campus here?
No.
You wouldn't like that?
No.
I would not personally feel comfortable, no. Personally, I don't agree with them.
You wouldn't go see them? No. All right.
I personally wouldn't go see them, but
Okay.
I think that they still have a right to come talk on campus.
Would you be okay with somebody who held those viewpoints being invited to speak on campus here?
No, but you might tell me that it was a Democrat like 10 years ago.
Are you ready for a big surprise?
I guess so.
I'm going to tell you who said this quote. Hillary Clinton.
Really?
Her name is Hillary Clinton.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
No. Hillary Clinton.
Really?
Hillary Clinton.
What? Really?
Yeah.
See, that doesn't surprise me because I know her and Obama like to flip their sides on how they feel about gay marriage.
What if I told you that the person who said that was a woman named Hillary Clinton?
I'd be a little shocked.
You'd be
because,
shocked?
Yeah, she's a Democrat. If it's gonna get them a vote, then they're all for it. If it's not gonna get them a vote, then marriage is strictly between a man and a woman.
Which side do you think she falls on it in reality when, if you know, you're...
I'm sure she probably doesn't even think about it.
Probably not. She has other things on her plate.
Yeah, she
like
has
becoming
more.
president.
Yeah.
Do you think she really believes in marriage equality, or do you think she doesn't believe it and she's just saying she believes it because it's getting more popular?
Probably because she's getting more popular and she's thinking about running the next election.
She changed her mind a couple years back.
Yeah.
Though. Well, why do you think she did that? Do you think she had a change of heart, or do you think she decided all of a sudden that she needed
Politics is politics, let's
Politics
be
is
honest.
politics.
You sway and you go whichever way the wind's blowing.
That's who we are. It's in our DNA.
Doesn't that bother you a little bit that she's not really...
Yes.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, politicians should stand on principle sometimes, right?